Great. So hello and welcome. I am Dr. Sean Lordan, the host of our Hooked on Health podcast. And today I've got Bonnie Smith joining me.
Hi there. How are you?
Personal trainer to the celebrities and just a phenomenal overall person.
Thank you. We're
Let's
going to add mental performance coach in there.
And mental performance coach.
Yes, that's my new role.
It's her new role. And we're going to dive into that and how Bonnie can work with, people of all ages, people who've been through rehab, physical therapy rehab, right. Maybe other rehab both. Too, maybe both.
Don't put it past them.
And how I want to hear how your career has evolved.
Sure.
And your insights around that. So when we met, we were working together at Sports Club LA.
That was so Boston,
long ago. And we were both personal trainers. So tell me, a little bit about your background, your education, and kind of, how that morphed into what you're doing today.
Sure, absolutely. So, yes, personal training, PT work, nutrition. I always played sports. So we're going to go way back, high school. Sports, anything that I could run, jump, compete. I love to compete. I love to lead. So always the captain, always trying to force people to do more, be better, stay positive, get going. I mean, from a very young age, I could tell there was something wrong with me. So as I moved forward into college, I didn't have the same team goals and team competitions and things. So I had to find a new way to use that outlet. And, private training. I did group classes when I was 18 at the local Y in Belfast, Maine. I mean, you're talking 90-year-old women that they're like, what's this girl's problem? You know what I mean? So I morphed from there, went to school in Boston at Suffolk. There was not a huge sport community. So I just started lifting weights. I got injured. I was playing soccer and I hit right into a wall and my lower back just got really messed up. So I had to go through some PT myself. And that's when I realized I'm not perfect and I'm not gonna be working with people that are perfect. So it's really important to find, a way to move forward and past these injuries. So fast forward to finishing my master's of sports psychology, I've decided that I wanna work on mental performance coaching in conjunction with private training, in conjunction with nutrition. So I'm super fortunate to have the ability to have such a diverse background over 20 years. I think you probably know this, but you have to constantly stay up on your CECs or your credits. So I have corrective exercise, food and nutrition specialist. I'm certified through the Institute of Integrative Nutrition out of New York. I've done an internship at a hospital for nutrition. I've worked with some celebrities, some athletes. I mean, honestly, if I can do it, I'll say yes and just try it. So I love it. I have a big diverse background. I think my most favorite group to work with right now is probably people that are dealing with minor injuries so that I can help them find their baselines. So big minor injuries right now are the tech neck, the rounded shoulders. I'm sure you see that all the time. We've got knee injuries and hip injuries. So just finding that baseline and working them through that, they're so grateful. And I think that's where I find my need. I have to be needed, I mean, I have 2 kids and a husband, so I feel needed. But, in a professional manner, I like to feel needed, and it really does fulfill that role for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. Mm-hmm. Now, I think it's so interesting that you've got the background that you have, which is really, the diversity of it helps kind of get people the results that they need to get. And so you get your mental performance, which is really motivating and getting people to the end goal of what they need to get to. You've got nutrition, which people need to eat the proper diet, right?
Yeah.
Or just within, a boundary in order to get then the exercise results
Absolutely.
that they desire. So think about, your perfect client or somebody whom you've worked with in the past who's had major success. What is that plan? What are they coming to see you for? What does that plan look like to you? And how do you incorporate each of those kind of the triangle or the trifecta of your knowledge to get that person to the next level?
Absolutely. So I think the best way to answer that is to talk about how I would first meet with somebody, not maybe just getting a referral. I don't do a ton of marketing and things. I just get referrals from clients because when I'm working with someone, I'm all in. They get all of my attention, all of my time, all this. So I'll meet with them and we'll work on the basics. Okay, so you've got your squat, lunge, push, pull, hip hinge, planks, mobility, range of motion, and all of that. And then from there, we talk more about the goals, nutrition-based, emotional, mental, physical. We talk about stress. I ask them about sleep. Most people say it's like 4 hours a night. And then a lot of times we talk about the mental set, we'll call the coping skills to the stress and the sleep, right? Not getting sleep, being stressed out. And you will find most of the time people are doing all the right things except for one of those. So if you talk about a trifecta or a triangle of mental, emotional, physical, and nutrition, a lot of times people are eating well, they're working out. It's just their job is so hard, or their at-home life is really challenging. And that creates cortisol, and that is going to create an imbalance, which can create visceral fat, and then they become depressed, so they eat more, and they try to work out harder, and then get injured. So then they find me. They come to me somehow. My idea is let's reverse it.
Could you pause? Because that is like, you just said so much in 20 seconds. That's like, talk about that cycle one more time. Because like, that is like, there's so much like to unwrap in what you just said. So just like, can you just talk about that?
Let's talk about that one. Should I slow down here? All right. So when they come to me, most people already have a need, right? They have an issue, an injury, or something like that. What I like to find out is, why are they injured? Is it coming from the food, the sleep, the stress, nutrition, or physical? So most times, and this is, I think, living in Boston, to be honest with you, what I find is people are being affected by stress. And what does stress do? Stress makes you either eat more or less, and if you're eating more, you're gaining weight. If you're eating less, you're losing weight, but you're also losing muscle, right? So let's go down that path. So you're losing muscle, so then you're not burning as many calories per day. And when you don't burn those calories per day, you're gaining weight. So it's like, honestly, what it is if you don't have all three of those figured out, you will never get to your goal. You just won't. And then within that, create some sort of injury, whether it's mental or physical. And so, hopefully that was eloquently said enough, but the way to think about this is, I'm always looking for a way to promote the positive in people and to help with the challenges. I keep the environment positive. Mental resilience and motivation is my main, we'll call it my tagline, but when you talk about when someone comes to me and they are somehow broken, and I know that's a very harsh word, but there's always something that the person is like not able to do themselves, so therefore they're coming to me. So when we talk about the resiliency of the mental training or physical training and the motivation to get there, I think what I like to do is add key elements. The first element is a positive environment they come into. I'm never going to judge. I'm not going to say, wow, you shouldn't be doing that. Like, what were you thinking? As much as I might want to.
Yeah, unless they're eating Burger King every day. But yeah.
Right.
Then it's an easy solution. Don't eat Burger King every day.
Yeah, I know, but why are they eating Burger King? Do you ever think about that? Where is that coming from? Right. Because logically, probably not a good choice. So as we go past the point of, okay, here's my goal, blah, 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 what I do is I give them the small attainable goals. So if this person is coming to me and they're like, I have knee pain. Okay, well, let's talk about that. Let's walk backwards and we figure out their history and all these things. So the goal is to then build strength in the quads, right? Maybe lengthen the hamstrings, figure out what's going on with the ankles or the knee, the hip, because the knee is a prisoner between the two most of the time. And these people are coming to me saying, my doctor told me I need surgery. So my main thing is to say, let's figure out a holistic approach first. It could be food for inflammation. It's the stress. It's the not sleeping. So when I go through that, we'll call it a whole file of things that affect people, I find that it's easier for me to identify one, we'll call it issue at a time, an area of improvement, and we work on that small goal. Now, the final piece to that, when you start with the positive environment, setting a small goal, you celebrate that success. Okay, it's very important, because what I find is a lot of people skip over that. They'll set the goal and then they'll get it and they're like, what's next? I'm so bad at that. Yeah. I literally am so bad at that.
You literally just described me.
Yeah, exactly. I think most people that are goal driven, like, the goal is not really the point. The point is that you skip over the goal to get to the next goal constantly, right? So, I mean, I'm very, very, I understand that because I'm very similar to that. So to tell other people to not be like that is challenging, but that's my own challenge to deal with.
What do you do for yourself to make sure to hold yourself accountable?
Of course,
to celebrate the little wins.
I have no idea. What do? I like to travel. I'll try to go do something nice.
Give me an example of a little win and you reward yourself for that.
I'll tell you a win. So I had my son and I was in the middle of my master's program, and I had, I was nursing, I was working, staying at home, and I graduated and wrote my 78-page thesis. I think that's my little win for last summer. Now, that doesn't seem little, but what it was to me compartmentalized. Like every month I would just do another thing, and it all added up to that win. And then, okay, so what's next? And my mom's like, what is wrong with you? Like, just be like, yay, you did it. You got your certificate. I'm like, thanks, Mom. It's a certificate. Oh, my goodness.
Like, Mom, it's a degree. It's a degree, Mom.
But to her, she's like, well done,
I'm a master in this.
Doesn't matter. I could probably just, for family, I don't think it matters to me about like making them happy. I'm trying to figure me out. So I think the little wins in my life is just like getting to the end of the day and saying, I had this list today and I got it done. Now, when that relates back to training and physical health and all these things, I always tell people it's not when or like if I'm going to work out today. It's I'm going to work out today. When do I fit that in? Where does that go? Because if you're like me and you have a life and you do all these things, you literally have to write in like on your schedule, this is when I work out. And it doesn't have to be at the same time. I can't do it at the same time. I woke up this morning, it was 5-something. I just went downstairs and I started walking, just trying to get something in, and then I lift for an hour. So it's nice. It's like it's a good little system I have. But yeah, when it relates back to like clients and trying to help them focus on wins, what I do is I give them a timeline. I ask them if that's realistic. We focus on them. They get to their win. I say, okay, we have 6 more weeks. What do you want to do? And then in the meantime, I always tell them, okay, well, here's a Lululemon discount. Go do something like that. Like, go get something that makes you feel good or do something that makes you feel good. It is never food related. I don't want to ever reward people with food because then you're going backwards. I always tell them, have an experience. Go do something really cool because your mind's also going to appreciate that more. So.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Mm-hmm.
I think you mentioned something that is really important, especially for people that are busy, that may work like a 9-to-5 job or have structure to their day. And especially as you get to like our age, like you're in your like 30s, 40s, like you've got a family, you're in the throw of like young children.
Crazy.
It's tough, like, to get to physical therapy, to get to the gym, to then cook dinner or whatever. Like,
right.
What do you say to your clients that are, super busy that, I love the idea, like one actionable thing is like put the workout on the schedule. I do that.
Good. Yeah.
Nutrition, I personally have a more difficult, time with because I don't have a personal chef. Mark, do you want a job? No, I'm just kidding. But I think like if you don't have somebody cooking your meals for you, you don't do like one of those Factor, like the food subscriptions, like that stuff to me is all crap. Like, I don't know if anybody from Factor is listening to this, but like, I want fresh food, and I know, I think the challenge is like, I know what to eat, I think the difficulty is, and I know what I shouldn't eat. Like, I know I shouldn't stop at Chick-fil-A on the way to go pick up Noelle from school. But if I'm hungry, it's like all those things that come up that are like, how do I avoid that? So what do you tell your clients who, are mentally weak like me?
Are struggling with nutrition or in general, just not able to? I think
let's talk about the nutrition piece.
It's a lot there.
And then I want to touch on, because I think the motivation and the mental health and the mental performance side of it and nutrition for me are like completely combined.
Okay.
And then I think for others too, it's the same thing with exercise. Like if they don't, like you and I are doing, because we know what to do for exercise.
Right.
So it's just you plan it and you book it.
Yeah.
How are you coaching people? Because I feel like my nutrition is just literally my brain.
Right.
Like how do you coach people into
like being healthier?
Being healthier. Yeah.
Well, I have a story for you. Can I go there?
Yes.
I have a client, I'm not going to name names. She came to me on day 1 and told me that she had a Pop-Tart and a bagel for breakfast this morning. And this is before we're training at, 7 a.m., 7:30 a.m. And the workout was difficult for her. She felt awful. So I didn't say anything. Again, positive environment. The next time she came in, she goes, I didn't feel great after that. So she's like, I'm going to try something else. I said, here are some options. So I always ask for the person to be ready. It's the readiness to make change that's important, right? So this person is now on a fully functional, making a meal plan for herself on Sundays because I wrote something out for her because she goes, I think you're right. Wow, look at how awful I feel. So I think it comes down to energy and it comes down to the person like really valuing what they're eating. So in response to your question, the Chick-fil-A, that is a convenience thing for you. You're not planning for yourself. This is the problem. If you there's that saying, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail or whatever. So when it comes to this, I would tell you the most important thing is thinking about how your body is affected by food. And as a man, it's a little different than a woman per day. It's more of like a daily cycle than a monthly cycle. So I would say have most of your food and make sure every meal is protein, mostly protein, but you're a busy guy and I totally get that. You need to plan. Okay, plan what you like. I don't care. Maybe you like some weird like protein bar that like makes you happy. Like, I don't know.
Like one made of mushrooms?
Yeah, like the mushroom bars. Made goods, right?
Yeah. They're
but
okay.
the point is,
like chalk,
I'm like a huge fan of carb cycling.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit more of a balance. So say you have a Monday low carb, like less than 15%. Tuesday's a 25, between 25 and 30% carb. And then say a Wednesday on that third day is going to be over 35 to 45. So it gives people the option to have their like ridiculous lasagna meal on a Wednesday night and then get back to the low carb. It is confusing for your body. So your metabolism stays like on alert saying, okay, well, what's happening here? Am I actually going to get into that next dress size? Because, okay, I'm going to like burn the food. What is bothering me about people now, and please don't take offense if anyone out there is doing the intermittent fasting, it works for some and not for others. The problem is that most people aren't doing it correctly. And so we fast by accident a lot of times. Like you're saying, like maybe you don't eat till 2 p.m.
Yeah, you forget.
And we go home and you're just like, feed me right now. Like I need something in my stomach. And that is where the planning is then failing. So I always recommend to people, just try to eat every 2 or 3 hours. Something small. It depends on if they're lifting, right? Pre and post workout nutrition's a little different. You don't want to have fats. You want to make sure that your carbohydrates are up there. And when it comes right down to it, it's the water too. Like not to always throw that in there. My mom wants me to get a shirt that says hydrate. Like she's all she says to me all the time. It's like a joke in the family. But really it's helpful because if you're also dehydrated, you think you're hungry and you're not. So it's like, honestly, it's like there's a small child inside of us that we need to constantly fight with. It's like having a 2-year-old that says, feed me, I'm hungry. No, you're not. I just gave you, all this food. No.
A mushroom bar.
Yeah.
I think that's actually a really good analogy. Is like having a child or somebody like I don't know, like what Freud would call this.
Id.
Like,
the id.
Your id, right?
Yeah.
Like, what is that, your ego?
It's like the one that's like, do what I want now.
Yeah, which is like, I think, and again, that's why I talk so much about habits and like stacking positive habits, because then you don't think about it.
Yeah.
Right. I think the more that I can do on a daily basis, that's like, I literally like almost wear the same clothes every day because I buy just 10 of the same thing, and just like it's one less step that I have to think about.
PT
like,
uniform.
Yep. Yeah. The PT uniform or whatever. It's like, and then I brush my teeth, and I do this, and I do that, and it's like it's all systematized.
It's called subconscious flow.
Yeah.
Is what you're speaking about.
Yeah,
it's
so
how you get through the day. Okay,
yeah, so
I'm a big fan of this, and
let's dig into that.
Yeah, so the flow state in athletes is a little bit different than what I'm talking about. To be more relevant to everyone listening today, a subconscious flow is when you wake up and you know exactly what's happening next, and you feel comfortable. Many times you don't even remember if you brushed your teeth because you've already gone and done these things. You're like, oh no, did I lock the door? Did I turn off the coffee pot? Or because you're in this state of like subconscious movement.
And it's calming for the brain.
It's the flow state is very calming, but this is what I'll tell you. It also inhibits new neurological brain growth. So they always say like go a different way in the morning to work. Do this, do that. It keeps you stimulated. But when it comes to flow state in like athletes and things like that, those are where people are not getting injured because their body is so comfortable and the range of motion is there, and it's like that perfect 5-star state of just like being the best that you can be. Now when it comes to nutrition and fitness and emotional state, that is never going to be constant because we have a real life. I mean, if you had like an assistant for every single thing that you did, I think it would be a little easier to constantly have the sameness every day. But we have meetings and we have people that need things from us when we also need things from us. And most of us give to others before we give to ourselves. So a really good piece of advice I can give anyone is be a little bit selfish. It's very hard for me. I'm not inherently selfish. I like to just like give away everything, and then whatever's left is for me. Generally just go to bed, at 9, because that's all I have left. But yeah, I don't, and I think like it also comes to like in my family, there's like a birth order. We're all very similar, but we all have jobs where we're like teaching and learning and things like that. So it's a really fascinating thing, you know, how people's personalities affect how they provide, like live and like move through the days.
I love that. So give me some examples of, you know, so when you're working with clients and you're talking to them about like those flow states, where does the coaching come into play? So what is there like an assessment that you're doing, like whether it's in your brain and being like of things, because you're like, one thing that I've noticed about you is that you notice everything.
Yeah.
And so I always like, it gets me thinking like, oh, I wonder what she's paying attention to in this moment. And I wonder, as your client, you know, in order to motivate them and to get to where, you know, you could kind of turn the dial and get them better.
Right.
Is there like an assessment that you're doing in your head? Is it on paper? Like, what are you looking for to get them better?
I think I would call it a cue, a motivational cue. To get them better, let's start with exercise. So if I have a client that is moving in an improper like range of motion, or they're loading, or the knees in front of the toe in a bad way, I'll always get right down, and it's like physical. Like I'll put my hand there, I say move back. How does that feel? And I'll do that 10 times and repeat and practice and repeat. And I notice that when the person, the next time they come in, they like think about that, because I've made it like a thought process, like a memory thought process. Now, until you can create that thought process goes away and it becomes subconscious, I keep putting my hand there, and they feel that, and they go back and they go back. When it comes to like training, I have this crazy awareness when it comes to like physical. Like I can see someone walks to me, and you probably do too. You see that there's something going on, whether there's an imbalance in the hip or the shoulder. And I think that's just 20 years of like watching people, not judging, watching. And then you kind of
call it observation. It's actually it's in the note as observation.
That's better. I'm going to use that term.
Observing.
Thank you. I'm observing.
And then you're inspecting.
Yeah.
Right? Like where are things, like when you,
Absolutely.
observation is watching them do what they do. And then the inspection's like, okay, this shoulder's a little higher than that one. Mm-hmm. The knees are in valgus.
Yeah. And I mean, I use a lot of tools with that, like bands. I love booty bands because of the varus and valgus of the knees. It kind of helps to create the strength on the outside of the hips and the inner thighs. So, you know, I'll use tools for that. You know, but just going back to your question, I think for me, I love the puzzle. I like solving things. So I just think of every person comes to me and I don't know them. They're just this, you know, puzzle pieces. Who are they? How can I help them? And what is their next step? You know? Let's
dig into that a little bit. So I know we kind of talked about this, you know, a little bit ago, but your perfect client, right? Let's talk about, give me somebody who's your perfect client and how you can help them in all three aspects.
Okay, that's interesting. I have a client right now that is trekking a bunch of the peaks in the, you know, like there's like 7 peaks or whatever. He just did Mont Blanc last year. He did Antarctica, Kilimanjaro, Base Camp Everest, Mount Rainier. There's one down in Argentina, and I'm going to butcher the name, so I'm not saying it at all. Anyway, my point is that he came to me with very limited strength. He is, you know, he's trying to figure out, like, do I actually want to do this? I need to build everything. I need help with everything, okay? Mental endurance, physical endurance. I need to figure out how to work through the training program and all of that. So it's been 2 years, and he has built his posture alignment different. I mean, if I could do pictures here, I mean, he's probably built like 15 pounds of muscle. He looks so much different. He's doing pull-ups. We used to use a band. Now he just does them. He rips pull-up on his own. I mean, the progression is amazing because he is so consistent and on his own as well. So when you talk about the perfect client is not a specific person. It's a person that is doing what I ask of them and enjoying it and continuing to do it based on their needs, not what I want them to do. So you come to me, I'm supposed to be the expert, but it doesn't mean you have to listen. You know, it's just like being a parent. This is how you're supposed to do it. It's not that they always listen. When I'm working with a client and I see them connecting with me and saying, oh, okay, yeah, I noticed this and this felt better. What you can get out of that is a value add where they're saying, all right, well, she knows that I'm doing this, and now to fix me, it's here. And then when it happens, you build so much trust and so much confidence in the relationship that you could then go on and tell them, I'm going to go run 5 miles. It's the only thing you're going to do. He has an 80-pound vest now that I gave him, okay? He just goes and he does the Harvard steps, okay? He's like a 55-year-old man. Yeah. Like, good for him. Like at 6 a.m. on a Tuesday, you know what I mean? He has such like sight and motivation, and I love that. So I guess to me, I don't care what goal you have. As long as you come to me, you're open and aware that I'm here for a reason. I'm going to help you I'm going to show you the way. Here's the flashlight. You got to go forward. There's nothing else I can do, you know?
And I think, what you talk about is, and what you said is, I'm the expert in this industry or field.
Yeah.
But I think also where you're not giving yourself credit is that you are leading them to that outcome, and you're leading them through the motivation, and the cues.
Motivation's huge, yeah.
And focusing, and I want you to talk a little bit about like the internal and external like motivations, locuses of control, and not to get like too scientific or like in the weeds, but I think that's important for the audience to know is like, what is the role of a coach? What's the role of a personal trainer? And really like with your experience, having like knowing everything, with the nutrition piece, like you can get somebody the results that they're looking for, but how do they then, like, how do you keep them motivated to keep going?
Absolutely.
Especially after like the first 4 weeks, like, or 6 weeks, if they do everything and they're really consistent and then you see like the drop off because it's just too tough to maintain the restriction or whatever you're doing. So talk to me a little bit about that.
Sure, absolutely. So a lot of treatment plans I work with are 3, 6 months, maybe a year. Motivation's interesting. So a lot of times I like to figure out, obviously, if there's an intrinsic or an extrinsic motivation. So you have people that are motivated by accolades, maybe money. They're motivated by the next race and how well they're going to do. Basically, if someone tells them they're doing a good job, that's how they're getting motivated, right? Then you have the person that doesn't care what anyone else thinks, and they're very hard on themselves. They're very challenging to train because it doesn't matter if I tell them that they're doing well, they look good, this is happening, can't you see the results? Because in their mind, it has to be a clear boundary. So there's 2 ways of motivating those types of people. One way is with the intrinsic people, what you're working on is more showing them how they're moving forward and showing them the strength. So I say, see what you just did. You just did it. 5 pull-ups. You just did wide grip pull-ups, and this time last year you're using a 30-pound help band, so it has to be pointing out those things, and then they're like, oh, I didn't even realize it. It's because I'm not doing 15 that I don't feel like I'm doing good. Right. So that's the difference. They're constantly, like we talked about, goal forward. But then you have the extrinsic where I say, okay, well, today I'm doing competition, and if you can do this many pull-ups, I'm going to put you in a raffle to get free training. It works every time. There's so many different. I had clients that were getting married this past summer, and one of them, I was like, if you can get your weight down to a specific weight in the next 3 weeks, I'll give you 5 free sessions. Yeah. And he didn't make it. He tried. He didn't make it. Sorry, man. I'm going to throw that out there.
Yeah, he was like 0.2 pounds above it. Yeah.
He did try. He tried. But I said, that's okay. You got close. He goes, nope, I don't want it. I didn't get there. I didn't work hard enough. Right? So it's like more of that intrinsic motivation. He had an extrinsic goal, but it didn't get him to that point. So now that's a lesson learned to me. That sort of thing's not going to work on him. We need to try a different way. So
let's just keep digging in on motivation.
Sure.
I love it. Give me some more like motivational techniques that you use with your clients.
Besides burpees.
Besides
do this or
don't
you're doing
eat for 24
burpees.
Hours. Yeah, you're not going to eat for 24 hours.
I think motivation, it's tricky, right? So I find that...
What motivates you?
I think time, getting things done efficiently is my motivator. I don't know. That's such a good question. I'm more of an intrinsically motivated person. People ask me, why are you going to school again? Why are you doing these things? I don't care if anyone knows that I'm doing these things. I'm doing it because I have a goal for myself. And I just think it would be really cool to be able to share all of that I'm learning with everyone else, right? Again, trying to be more of an expert in the field. And when it comes to motivation of that, I think it has more to do with helping people. So I guess helping people maybe is a motivator, like when it comes right down to the base. But a motivation technique that I would say really does help people. You have qualitative and quantitative kind of factors in these. So you have the qualitative is like, okay, 5 pounds by 3 months from now. 1 pound a week is actually very helpful. Like that's something that like people can attain. What I find though is that when people don't see that first bit of motivation within the first week or 2, I'd say 3 weeks is the downfall. You get very motivated for 3 weeks and it dips. It's like a reverse bell curve. It dips down. Yeah. So that's when I come in. It's not about motivation to keep people going. It's about consistency. So we could talk about motivation all day long, but then guess what? Their boyfriend breaks up with them, or someone's sick in the hospital, or they have pneumonia. Like, okay, boom, there goes motivation. It doesn't matter. My dad taught me a long time ago, you can wake up, I don't care how you feel. Go do what you said you were going to do. You said you were going to show up today, you show up. You're on time, you're early. You know what I mean? I feel like, to me, motivation is very, very important. And I agree that it's a motivating factor as far as getting people where they need to go. It's consistency of the things that you say you're going to do. And that's why we talked about like the planning and things like that, because you have to have some feeling of responsibility to yourself. You know, in our current world right now, like an adult, you don't have to be responsible to anyone, right? You just kind of live your life and you have certain responsibilities. It doesn't mean that you're gonna get in trouble for having your Chick-fil-A or whatever it is that Chipotle, you stop at the end of the night. Like, you're gonna get in trouble, but is it gonna make you feel good? So does it motivate you if it makes you feel terrible to then eat something better? So if we can find correlations, and that's why I work really well with people that are communicating with me, it's so important. Communicate with me, tell me how you're feeling. Why did you eat 2 crumble cookies last night? Have you guys heard of crumble?
Yeah.
Oh my gross. Are you kidding me? 1,000-calorie cookie. Yeah, this happened to me recently. One of my clients was like, and so I said to her, I go, why, what happened? I go, did you go on a bad date? She's like, yeah, 2 nights ago I went on a bad date. So her motivation dropped because she went on a bad date. She felt sad and needed an instant serotonin, dopamine, like really. I mean, 1,000 calories. So again, no judgment. I said, okay, listen, here's how we're going to combat this. 2-day
No
low
judgment,
carb.
but judgment, yeah.
2 days low carb. Go do your food prep. You're going to be golden. So I think it's just, like I said, the motivation is cool. And working with people that are self-motivated is awesome because they're going to go out and get stuff done. That's a whole different treatment plan. When it comes to people that have tried all these diets and nothing's working, they're just scrapping around looking for things. I don't think motivation is the key anymore. It's about finding one thing that they see small changes on, and like a savings account, those are going to compound, and over time there's 5 pounds and 8 pounds and 10 pounds, and they're like, oh my goodness, like this 15-pound medicine ball was me 3 months ago, and those sort of things are really cool. Those are my little bonuses, I call it, because when, by the way, you work for yourself, you don't get days off and there are no bonuses. So the point is that I have to find the things that make me happy, that I'm doing what I'm doing, and I'm so happy, and I don't feel like I work. I swear, it's so cool. I tell my clients that a lot. But yeah, so I think it's good.
Yeah, I think one thing that the consistency is so critical really to like anything in life. But what I was thinking of when you were talking about that was the word persistence. Mm-hmm. And I think that's truly what separates, the highest level people, from those who are to your exact point. Like, yeah. It's uncomfortable, I hate, like, this quote is so corny, but it's like the pick your hard, right? So like it's hard, it's hard to be, overweight and be on medications and have all these health complications. Yeah. It's also hard to have a six pack. Mm-hmm. It's hard to save your money and to plan for retirement and to do all that. It's also hard to have, no resources and, no penny, not a penny to your name. So I think the thought process behind like choosing your heart and then being just a little persistent, like more than the average, right? Because it is so easy. Like you drive down Route 9 or like, the Belt and like 128, like there's so many options to pull off and literally go get McDonald's or Chick-fil-A or, whatever it's worse down south.
Not that you would do that, right?
Not that I would ever do that.
Yeah.
And I think it's just, but when you go back to motivation, you go back to those things like, if your tank is a little low that day, like maybe somebody quit or maybe
emotional health is huge.
Maybe you had an argument with a loved one or, maybe somebody passed in your family. Like there's so many different levels of like, okay, like, and this is where like, I feel like you add a ton of value too. Is like, okay, like knowing the mental health piece and like that people are going to get serotonin boosts where they can and, dopamine boosts where they can. Why don't we get that dopamine boost from a cold plunge instead of getting it from, a sausage, egg, and cheese from McDonald's or whatever it is, I mean, kind of a wide variety there, but.
No, I absolutely get that. I think it's habit too.
Yeah.
I think what you were talking about, persistence, goes right along with the idea of habits. If you wake up and you brush your teeth, like whatever, that's what people do. How about coffee drinkers? Does anyone actually like coffee? I'm not a coffee drinker. Do you like coffee? Like, I'm curious. This is a serious question.
Yeah, it's so ingrained in like,
Right.
and I feel like, I mean, I actually like the coffee that I make, so it's a little
Good.
different. I don't drink I don't drink black coffee. I mean, I feel like that's kind of an aggressive. I used to, like, it tastes like chalk. I liked the. I don't know if you could call it a high. Like, I did feel different from the caffeine because I used to do like a quad espresso over ice.
That sounds
like
it's
nothing
like really
in it.
aggressive.
It's so aggressive, but it's like, if you know me, that's like literally
You
like
don't
my
need
personality
that.
to a T.
You don't need that. I guess my point to that is it habit that people do the things that we do, or is it out of desire and need? Right. Where does it start? Where does it end? So if your habit is that you work out in the morning, if you can get that going for a couple weeks, you're going to keep it going. This is what happens, and you just talked about it. When something goes wrong, what happens then? When you have a trainer, you are financially responsible for going and showing up.
Yeah.
And that is a huge motivator for people. And what I like to do, I have a 24-hour cancellation policy. I do not bend on that, even for my favorite friends in the entire world. And everyone knows that, because I value my time, but I value their time. So I'm not going to let someone say, I just don't feel like it today. I don't feel like it. And so that's a motivator, right? So you've got physical, financial, emotional health, all of these things. But something that I like to think that I add, and just going back to the mental side of it, is I also offer a very calming space to vent. Now, the reason I got into mental performance coaching, and the reason I decided to go back, and I remember the exact day, one of my clients was just really having a hard time. And we spent 45 minutes just talking about her life and like the things going wrong. And she goes, wow, you're like a therapist. And I go, yeah, I know a lot of stuff, and I'm not allowed to tell anyone. I could write a book, you know what I mean? And I go, okay. So I took that one step further, started researching where to go and all of these things. So fast forward to now getting my degree. I've already been doing what I got my degree for, to the T. I've been doing all of the things. But now I have a scientifically backed plan behind that, like where I can tell people, all right, here's what you're going to experience. You're injured. These are the things that you need to watch out for. Okay. You're going to have a little PTSD. You're going to be afraid to push yourself. You're going to have the feelings that I'm never going to be good again. Right. So what you do is you turn that into a positive speak. Now that's something that is very important in sports psychology. Positive speak, self-talk. Like the people think it's kind of frou-frou, where you're like, I'm amazing. The SNL skit.
Yeah.
I'm great and everybody loves me. It's not like that. What it is it's saying, I am strong. I know that I can get back there because I work hard. It's called the resilience of moving to that next level. Okay. So if you can have positive self-talk, you use imagery, even if you're injured, do you know that you actually, your brain will actually learn to move your muscles by imagining. Like skiers will do that when they're injured. They're not actually out there skiing. They go down, they visualize that they're on the slopes doing things, and they actually get like muscle twitches and movement and stuff, and it's like that neurological connection.
We do that with stroke patients. So
Okay.
if somebody had a stroke, and again, I'm not a neuro expert or whatever by any means. I'm an ortho guy. They do like mirroring is part of like mirroring and mental imagery. Like closing your eyes, thinking about that affected side, moving is literally it's literally part of the whole like the initial rehab process, and probably moving forward. Like
I believe
there's a lot of power in it.
Absolutely, and it creates patterns too.
Yeah.
Again, like the habit, you're creating a mental habit, so it's something to think about. To like imagine yourself, and it goes both ways. Like if you're afraid about getting back into exercise, if you can imagine yourself completing a squat. Perfectly, or even a box jump. A lot of people get freaked out by that, and I don't make a lot of my clients do that, but that's something that's a little bit scary, right? You can visualize yourself jumping, landing, stepping down, and you do it so many, it's like repetitive. You'll get there. You will. And so, when you talk about someone needing that, like the mental encouragement to get to the next level, I think that's something that's lacking right now. When I was growing up, I played soccer down in Australia. We never talked about our feelings. Like, are you kidding me? Like, just deal with it. Like, I don't care. Like, go. If I knew then what I know now about both, physical, like, movement, not statically stretching before exercise, and, creating more dynamic stretching so that people don't have shin splints and things like that. But also, like, the mental side. Like, wow, you're playing against Tonga, which is a team we played against, and they are ginormous women. That is so scary, And so, like, you have to, like, mentally prepare yourself for being knocked down constantly constantly. It's not a contact sport, by the way. This is soccer
Yeah.
we're talking about. But those are like the fears that you're not going to talk about, and those are small things. But when someone is on a larger level, like the Olympics, scene, there's a lot of sports psychologists now that are out there, and they're helping the teams. They're like, it's like great. It's such a more balanced mental physical training process now. I think they're really getting it right. It's just, I wish that people wouldn't have such a stigma to like helping your mental health. I mean, our brains are the things that are like making our body work. You would think that would be where we start, not where we finish.
Yeah, and that's why we talked about like the DISC personality indexes and how to like connect with people, right? When you do an intake, and I think we talked about this a little earlier, but like you ask them what their goals are, right? Like, I want to lose 20 pounds, and then nutrition follows that. Here's what you have to eat to lose the 20 pounds. What are you asking them in terms of, like, I feel like you go to the doctor and they're like, hey, like, this, I need to I need to sensitize this, but they ask you these questions that are essentially around like, suicide.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And it's like, okay, well, I know what you're asking for. I'm not suicidal. I'm just going to answer no all the way across. But like, I think if people get the idea that like, like you're headed in a certain like direction, like, have you felt depressed in the last 24 hours? Or so what questions are you asking to gauge like their mental health status?
I feel like a lot of times it's organic, but I do ask a lot of questions like, what makes you happy?
Yeah.
Why are you here? Do you have support? If you did this, what would be a limitation for you? Like, you have to really dive into as if they're already with you and working, and what limitations might be, our challenges, we call it. And a lot of times, and more with female than male clients, to be honest, they'll just, I know their life story in 5 minutes. Like, people want to reveal themselves to you. Please help me. They are like, here's all of my baggage. Organize it, put it in a luggage, and let's go down the road. Like, I love that, because for some reason I have an ability to not feel the negative. And it's crazy. You would think that if you listened all day long to people that were having very intense issues, that you would just be dragged down. Now, it can be a little bit tiring, but it doesn't drain me in a way where I'm like, I can't do this, it's like too much. I find it, again, as a challenge, as a puzzle. Okay, so say client A comes in and says, I'm not happy at home. My husband tells me I need surgery because I need to get rid of weight. All these negative things. Can you help me? I'm like, absolutely, I can help you. But what do you want? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not there to set goals for people. I'm there to help people and say, here's my hand. Let's go do this. But it's not going to be easy. And I'm not someone that's going to just lay down and let you tell me what you want to do, and that's really important. I'm like an all-encompassing nutrition, mental performance, and fitness. And I think that that's very rare because I've stayed in the industry longer than probably most people want to. I like what I'm doing, just evolving within the same industry over the last 20 years. So yeah, I think it's really special, and it's hard for me to talk about myself. But if I were to talk about myself again, I would say my favorite thing with working with people is actually seeing them come to me and just being like, I am so happy that I called you that day. I'm so excited because of this. Like, can you imagine if X, Y, and Z? And then you have to constantly remind people of their progress, and in doing so creates value and client retention. I have a client I've been working with for 12 years, and so I just love it. It's so cool.
What is, we think about like your business and how you've grown over the last, really like 20 years. What is your biggest goal for like the next year? And
for
the next,
me?
What's your big goal?
Well, it's kind of big. We'll see. I think it would be very cool if insurance would pay for both a physical and mental session. So for example, you go to a therapist or you go to work out. How cool would it be if you could do both at the same time? There's so much research right now that says that when you're moving, especially men or little boys too, you actually release more of your emotional blockage, and you're able to say things that you might not say, and it feels safer, and you're in control of your body even though you don't feel like your mind is in control. When someone asks you a very personal question, we feel vulnerable, and we feel like we don't have control over that statement anymore, and it's no longer ours to protect. So when you talk about fusing the two together, and imagine if insurance would pay for that sort of like service, you would have, again, the fusion of the two where you have all of that, and then I would add in the nutrition aspect. You literally cannot fail. If you have, again, the trifecta, you have all three coming together, someone else is paying for it. Hello, bonus. You can't fail. It sounds amazing. Now, I don't know how feasible that is, but I think that would be something really cool to work on.
Yeah, I mean, even if like you could take like FSA or HSA dollars to go toward that, I think that'd be
They
huge.
do actually have clients that do that already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's, for people out there that, have an HSA card or like have FSA money,
Yeah.
I think there's really no better investment
Than
from a
yourself.
Yeah.
That's
than
my
yourself.
quote.
Yeah. I mean,
You're stealing my quote.
no, it's great. I mean, but it's true. I think that, and how often do we see it, in the healthcare field is like,
I know.
You could be the richest person in the world, but if you can't walk a quarter mile or like you can't
It's
climb
sad.
stairs, it's depressing. It's depressing to see. And I think a lot of people take their health for granted until they don't. So like somebody, you tear an ACL,
Yeah.
you have debilitating low back pain.
Yeah.
You can't move your neck, can't move your shoulder.
Yeah.
I think these are things that like you don't invest in it until it's sometimes too late. And I think that's where, obviously, how much of a believer I am in what, in you personally, and then, and what you offer in your services. But like to find a personal trainer that does literally everything is just a rare feat.
Yeah. I think I find now it's hard for me to only call myself a personal trainer.
Yeah.
I'm like a mind body specialist, I think is like a really fun way. And I think, again, it would be very cool to create a curriculum and have people come and learn how to do that under me, right? So as a mind body specialist, like through a NASM or something like that, because the idea is that you are learning mental performance coaching. You're learning how to write a nutrition program based on their needs, food allergies or carb cycling, keto, although with keto, sorry. But, and then you also have the physical side. And what if someone has an injury? That's a whole separate certification when it comes to all that. And I'm sure you remember way back in the day when you're doing all those things. So to have that experience and then just put it all in one place, that would be pretty special.
Yeah. And then, my mind goes to like, how can you help more people?
Exactly.
Right? So it's like,
Scaling
okay,
that.
so how do I go from helping one person one-on-one, and that's where it gets difficult, right? So like even for my journey as a PT, like you can only help so many people one-on-one a week. Like how do you then take the mental health performance coaching and performance training? And I love the idea of like creating a certification around that, because then you create a whole field. Right now you've got all these specialists that are trained in what you're doing and can help more people really through that journey. Because again, it's not a 6 to 8 week journey. It's
lifetime.
Years and a lifetime to really get the results.
Finding the balance, exactly.
Yeah, and to lose weight and keep it off, or to like get on a healthy nutrition program to be well. So no, this was great. So closing tradition. Now I feel like I got to change it up with you.
Go ahead,
Because you heard all the questions.
Change it up.
You heard all the questions that I did with Brogan. So I think I always love, well, now I got to think about it a little bit, but I do want to hear your favorite movie.
Top Gun. Hands
Really?
down. Yeah, first Top Gun.
You're 2 in a day. That's
really. I love Top Gun. I don't know what it is.
What do you love about Top Gun?
I mean, let's be honest. The soundtrack. No, Top Gun for me holds a special place in my heart. My cousin and I watched that. I just feel like I was meant to be a fighter pilot in a previous life. I'm not really sure why. It's just risking your life. I mean, those guys were insane. Now, the fact that is a real program is actually really cool too. And I trained a guy that went through the Top Gun program. He gave me his little patch.
Really?
Yeah, it was really cool. Smaller guy, fit in the plane.
Well, because you're going to be what? It's like 5'5" to like 5'9" or something?
Yeah, I think he was 5'7".
Yeah.
But yeah, like I think it's just nostalgia, right? I mean, I grew up in the 80s, so it's different. But yeah, I love it. I mean, I could watch that anytime. I don't need to watch. Once I see a movie, I move on. I'm very much like, whatever. But that one, so good.
Did you watch the new one?
Oh, of course. I own the new one. Come on. Maverick, so good. Not as good, but it's good.
I love that. Favorite meal?
Okay, this sounds so crazy. I have 2. My favorite meal is egg white scramble with like toast, whole wheat toast, and I put like a little bit of like the raspberries on top, so it like squishes down. It's like 6 calories, so it's good. Squishes down and it makes the toast soggy. Or homemade pizza with my daughter and son and Dan. Like, it's the best. So we do like this J Pace in our area, the pizza dough.
Yeah.
Low sodium pizza sauce. We used to use almond cheese. Now we've gotten to like the part skim mozz, and I feel like it's such a good cheat meal. So again, finding balance. Like, I've done fitness shows and still had pizza night. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like you got to find the balance. We have to live.
I love a nice pizza night. I just bought a pizza. Did I tell you that?
No, of course you
Just bought
didn't.
a pizza and it's awesome. So now pizza night's like once a week, but
Oh, okay.
it's all good.
And we'll talk after.
We'll talk
I'll help
after.
you.
And you know, I always love to end with, and maybe this, we'll see. I might have one more question, but
Yeah.
words that you live by.
No one can make you feel inferior without your consent. And that's Eleanor Roosevelt. I love that quote. I don't know why it speaks to me besides when it comes to mental mindset, it doesn't matter what's going on around you. If you can find a bubble of positivity or a bubble that I believe that I am this, it doesn't matter what you say or you say or you say this is who I am, that it's like that. It's that confidence, that mental resilience and confidence that I know personally I can go into any situation and give my best. That's how I feel. And I'm happy about that. So I love that.
I love that. That's a great quote.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, perfect from a mental health coach.
I know.
Like
It's so true.
Performance expert.
So maybe I was destined to be at this point, you know? So I'm excited.
I think that's great. So, no, but this is tremendous. Thanks again for coming on, Bonnie.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I
This
think
is great.
Our listeners will gain a lot of value from this
I hope
conversation.
so. And if anyone's looking for a mind-body specialist, you let them know.
Yeah, so how can people reach out to you, Bonnie?
Well, I have email, bonniesmithmpc@gmail, or I have Instagrams, you know, Body by Bonbon and Trainer. But I'm actually starting a book, which is kind of a fun little thing about motivation.
Yeah, awesome.
Moms Who Motivate. I worked on it when I was just in Florida. Really, the premise of it is to describe motivation, intrinsic and extrinsic, and to talk about all the things women don't want to talk about. The stress, we talk about our body images, and everyone's supposed to be this, but we actually are the, you know, all the things. And then taking a quiz within the book on how to motivate, and then you turn to the page that makes sense for you. Kind of like, remember Puss in Boots, the way back in the day where you like choose your own adventure?
Yeah.
I want to create something like that where someone's feeling one day, I'm feeling today depressed, turn to this page, this is how you deal with it, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then also to talk about strategies on the other side of it, to be selfish a little bit. We talked about that.
Yep.
You know, make sure that it's very hard because you want to put everyone else first.
Oxygen mask.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, come on, who's going to do that?
It's tough,
Some
but I mean, you know,
people-
it is great advice.
Yeah.
You know, you can't help anybody else unless you're well yourself.
Absolutely. But how do you get well? See, this is where people, the want is there, the how is not. That's what I can add to the
They hire
people's
Bonnie
lives.
Smith?
Yes, I would love it. Bring it on.
Awesome.
This has been great.
Thanks. Awesome. This is good. This is really good.
It's been fun.
I'm
Thanks for
excited.
having me.
Yeah, anytime.